Module 1, Introduction to Qualitative Research. Hello everyone, welcome to the course Doing Qualitative Research to understand qualitative process and its approaches. The course is designed to help you understand the philosophical foundation, approaches, research process, and significance of qualitative research. It aims to develop practice-based research skills, knowledge, and values required to undertake qualitative research studies with a people-centered focus, so as to give voice to the participants and various other stakeholder groups within the research setting. The objectives of the course are to learn about philosophical foundations and different approaches to qualitative research, understand the types of data collection and analysis procedures, and learn insights about gaining entry in the field, ethical considerations, and trustworthiness of the research. It will also discuss emerging methods of qual research in the context of technological advancements. The course will spread over 7 weeks covering the key aspects of qual research. Week 1, Introduction to Qualitative Research. It will include philosophical foundations and major paradigms. Week 2, Approaches to Qualitative Research. It will cover phenomenology, ethnography, case study, and digital approaches. Week 3, Approaches to Qualitative Research. It will cover the grounded theory. Week 4, Sampling and data collection. It will cover purposive snowball and theoretical sampling. Week 5, Data analysis and ethics. Week 6, Writing the report and reference. Week 7, Qualitative research across disciplines. So let's start with the first module, Introduction to Qualitative Research. Qualitative research is an approach to study real-world situations through people's experiences, meanings, and perspectives in their own environment or context. It provides a deeper understanding of human behavior and experiences in a given context and excels at studying complex and nuanced social situations. Qual research can be a standalone study or combined with quantitative research to understand the why and how of any real-world situation. It is gaining significance across disciplines due to its unique strength to capture rich, nuanced, and thick data of any research issue. Contrary to the popular belief that qual research doesn't have scientific rigor, it is conducted within a framework that has its methodology, methods for data collection and analysis, ethical considerations, and ensures credibility. To understand a research problem in its entirety, one needs to analyze its meaning, context, people's experiences, perspectives, and actions. It needs an approach that is rigor enough to establish quality of the research process as well as flexible enough to allow adaptability and responsiveness to the social complexities of the field. Qualitative research is that approach that balances between these two attributes. There are some commonly used words or concepts in qualitative research. Let's understand those words and vocabulary for using in appropriate places. Thick data, detailed account of meaning, experiences, context, and interpretation. It focuses on why a particular social reality happened. It complements or explains, sometimes contrasts big data that focus on large statistical analysis and emphasize on depth of data. Rich description. It is the detailed and thorough accounts of either data or analysis. Thick data and rich description are very close to each other. When we say thick data, it is the information that you get from the participants or any stakeholders in the field, while rich description is the detailed and thorough accounts, including the context, including the people's experiences, their perceptions and opinions. The meaning of nuanced is subtle differences in the meaning, language, and behaviors in a particular context. The meaning and perception of a particular real-world situation or an event differ from one culture to another, from one community to another. So there are subtle differences which the outsiders may not understand in its entirety. And the role of the researcher is to understand these subtle differences in the meaning, language, and behaviors in that particular context. More often than not, vocabulary, meaning, tone, and ethical dynamics differ from one culture to another and from one organization to another. At times, same word or same behavior do not carry same meaning in two different cultures. These subtle differences are examined through a nuanced study. Now, context. Context is a setting, research setting or environment with its unique social, cultural, and economic and political structures. It can be a community or an organization where people function or live. It plays a very important role in qualitative research. How people behave, how people perceive a social world or a real world situation depends on the context. Social reality, real life situations or events that are socially constructed by people. For example, marriage, gender norms, legal systems, money, power, etc. Social reality is constantly being created and changed through human interactions. Meaning. So, in qualitative research, we use the term meaning frequently. It would mean perceptions, values, and beliefs given to a reality by the participants. And then the last one is verbatim. Verbatim is using the same exact words as were originally spoken or written, word for word, without changing the meaning. When we interview the participants, we get the exact same information that they give, and then we write it as a quote in the data, as the data. And that is the verbatim. These are some of the concepts that we will use frequently during our course. Philosophical foundation of research. Any research begins with the fundamental questions on existence, knowledge, and human nature in relation to reality. Which approach to use, which methodology to adopt, and which methods to be employed in our research depends on the philosophical foundations. These are the principles and values that shaped a particular way of thinking and doing for establishing knowledge. Your quest for knowledge, your search for scientific or social scientific knowledge about reality is guided by these philosophical foundations. We ask questions to understand reality. What is the nature of reality? How do we establish knowledge on reality or relationship with reality? Here, reality may be a fact, situation, happening, culture, or a condition. For example, social norms, caste, class, poverty, unemployment, educational status of people, etc. These are social realities and can be assessed using both objective and subjective views. To decide whether we take the objective or subjective way of examining the social world, these are some philosophical positions that we need to take, the ontological and epistemological positions. Let's define ontology and epistemology first. Ontology is concerned with existence and nature of reality. We ask ontological questions like what is the nature of reality? How do we know that this reality exists? To study nature of reality, we have two ontological positions to guide us. The first one argues that realities are objective, stable, and ordered, and exists independently of individuals. The second position argues that realities are subjective and socially constructed. Now, epistemology. Epistemology is concerned about knowledge. How do we create knowledge that we have about reality? What sort of statements will we accept to justify what we believe to exist? How do we acquire knowledge? Here too, we have two epistemological positions to guide us. The first one argues that knowledge is derived from century observations by objective researchers. The second one argues that knowledge is derived from daily interactions and co-constructed by the researcher and the participants. There is a third position that argues that knowledge can be obtained through both, that is, objective observation and subjective interpretation together. Based on which ontological and epistemological positions you take, you choose the appropriate methodology. If you take the objectivist epistemology, you believe that reality exists independent and external to individuals' experiences and perceptions, and hence lead to a methodology that is objective in nature. And similarly, subjective epistemology leads to a methodology that is subjective. Now we have the third one, methodology. It is concerned with the logic of inquiry. It is the overall systematic structure and the logic of inquiry of how you conduct the research. It includes all the techniques and procedures for studying, explaining, and validating the knowledge generated from research. This is where we call it quantitative methodology, qualitative methodology, or mixed methods research, depending on which logic of inquiry we take. Methodology also includes methods that concerns with the techniques of data collection, analysis, and validation, or for establishing credibility. The last one, axiology, is concerned with values such as ethics and personal beliefs. It deals with how a researcher's values, beliefs, and ethical considerations shape their research questions, methodology, data interpretation, and overall approach to knowledge creation. So these four aspects of research are interconnected to each other. Naturally, the philosophical position you take will inform and impact your research process and the methodology you adopt. The primary philosophical foundations. Since we discussed ontology, epistemology, and methodology, let's now look at the primary philosophical foundations that researchers have been using to make informed decisions of their research methods and procedures. For this course, we will discuss the three dominant philosophical foundations of research: positivism, interpretivism, and pragmatism. The first one is positivism. It is a philosophical approach that believes that knowledge is attained through objective observation and controlled inference. It views reality and the truth as objective, rational, singular, and something to be discovered. Its ontological positions argues that only a single tangible reality exists, one that can be understood, identified, and measured. There is one fixed reality external to the observer. It also argues that reality can be studied objectively, irrespective of who the researcher is and his or her position may be. Auguste Comte, a French sociologist, used the term positivist in 1830 for the first time. He believed that valid knowledge can only be derived from directly observable behavior by the five senses, such as marriage, employment, childbirth, etc., rather than through values, opinions, and beliefs. He asserted that the study of society should be a science using the same methods used in natural sciences. For example, unemployment is a reality. There are factors like age, gender, educational status, and that influence unemployment. If you want to study the relationship between gender and unemployment using positivism, you need to focus on observable and measurable aspects. That is to collect quantitative data and carry out statistical analysis to identify patterns and relationships. You will not engage with interviews asking people about their experiences and perspectives on unemployment in relation to their gender. You will rather be interested in studying how gender as a variable affect unemployment as another variable. The relationship between gender and unemployment is independent of people's opinions and experiences. So, this way of measuring and calculating relationships between two factors remained the main approach to understand social issues. Positivism became the dominant philosophy to produce knowledge. It is aligned with the deductive logic of inquiry. It starts with a premise or theory relevant to the topic, develops hypotheses based on the theory, and proceed to collect and analyze the data to test if the hypothesis is supported or rejected. Since positivism remained the dominant and the most accepted philosophical foundation, it became a reference point for other foundations to establish their positions. Now, interpretivism. Interpretivism is a research philosophy that emphasizes understanding of social phenomena by interpreting the subjective meanings and experiences of individuals within their specific contexts. Reality is not out there, but are results of mental constructions. It argues that reality is socially constructed by people in relation to their beliefs and experiences. All knowledge and realities are created through social interactions between people and their world, and hence, there are multiple truths and realities. Study of social realities should be different from studying sciences, as it is not studying objects but human mind and their behavior. It believes that knowledge is co-constructed by the researcher and the participants of the research. This philosophical foundation is rooted in Max Weber's work. He developed this idea throughout his career in the late 19th century. He believed that reality as being constructed by people according to their own understanding of the phenomenon. He introduced the idea of Verstehen to focus on an interpretive understanding of people at the individual level, their actions, and their micro level interactions rather than measurable behavior of people's actions. Weber's Verstehen thesis assumes that the participants in a social phenomenon are in a certain psychological states, and there is a close relation between psychological state and their behavior or actions. For example, marriage is a reality. Studying marriage using this perspective will include exploring symbols, language, rituals, social bonds, meanings, and experiences. How marriage is organized or practiced is a result of people's construction of meaning, beliefs, and values about marriage. Two people in the marriage construct it as an institution or companionship, procreation, sexual and emotional bond, and concept ties. This construction is a consequence of the individual's perspectives, beliefs, and values attached to marriage. This philosophical foundation often criticizes and contrasts the positivistic views. Pragmatism. It is based on proposition that researchers should use the philosophical and or methodological approach that works best for a particular research problem. It argues that knowledge is always based on experience. One's perceptions of the world are influenced by our social experiences. Each person's knowledge is unique as it is created by her or his unique experiences. Pragmatism rejects the idea of dualism but embraces the two extremes and offers a flexible and more reflexive approach to research design. Unlike positivistic researchers who assert an objective knowledge acquired by examining empirical evidences and hypothesis testing, and constructivists who propose that knowledge is relative and reality is too complex. Pragmatists believe that the process of acquiring knowledge is a continuum rather than two opposing and mutually exclusive poles of either objectivity and subjectivity. It believes in practical and flexible approach on what works. The philosophical foundations of qualitative research. We have two dominant philosophical foundations, interpretivism and constructivism. Unlike approaches to natural sciences, qualitative research examines the human minds, processes, and contextual factors that influence a reality. The qualitative research process is embedded within interpretive philosophies. Interpretive philosophy asserts that reality is subjective, meaning each person's experiences of reality is unique and different and shaped by their perceptions, beliefs, and interpretations. Different people may interpret the same event or reality differently. Hence, there are multiple forms of truths and realities. Interpretivists look for meanings and motives behind people's actions, like behavior and interactions with others in the society and culture. Now, we have the ontological and epistemological positions of qualitative research. The ontological positions of qualitative research is that there are multiple realities from multiple perspectives. Since people's experiences, opinions, and perspectives are different, uh, we have multiple realities from different people. And the epistemological positions is that the subjective evidence is obtained from participants and knowledge is co-constructed by researcher and the participants. And the qualitative research uses the inductive logic of inquiry, meaning the inductive logic of inquiry, and studies a topic within its context and uses an emerging design. Now we have history of qualitative research. We have eight phases or eight stages of the historical development of qualitative research. Qualitative research has roots in anthropology, philosophy, and sociology. It was first used by anthropologists and sociologists in 1900s to study cultures and groups and told stories of their experiences, but in a non-structured form. Qualitative research was relatively unsystematic and journalistic in nature. Early qualitative research, particularly anthropology and sociology, did aim for objective accounts, but with a different understanding of objectivity than quantitative research. Their understanding of objectivity was detailed, accurate, first hand observation, and aimed to give scientific accounts of other cultures. While early qualitative researchers sought to provide valid and objective descriptions of other cultures, they also acknowledged the researcher's role in shaping the narrative and limitations of solely relying on their perspective. Early qualitative research involved the Western researchers observing the customs, practices, and behaviors of primitive societies to understand the other. During this period, the other was often regarded as a non white person living in a society considered less civilized than the society to which the observer belonged. Malinowski's approach emphasized living among the people he studied, learning their language, and participating in their daily lives to gain a deep understanding of their culture. He is often cited as the founder of modern ethnographic methods, and he revolutionized fieldwork methods, cultivated an innovative style of ethnographic writing, and mounted polemical assaults on a wide array of academic disputes and public issues. Malinowski broke the convention by abandoning the positivist pretense of aloof scientific objectivity by inserting a witnessing self into his narrative. Researchers reported from the field natural settings of the field by observing and talking to the people about their lives. Norman and Lincoln, qualitative research has meant different things at different times across its history. Its phase of qualitative research is shaped by the historical, social, and intellectual contexts. The development of qualitative research has been heavily influenced by the variety of subdisciplines. Subdisciplines of social sciences, health sciences, and humanities, including cultural anthropology, symbolic interactionism, Marxism, feminism have played significant roles in the continued development of qualitative research. Despite their differing theoretical assumptions and methodological preferences, these disciplines and subdisciplines are united in their reasons for employing qualitative research. That is, to identify, analyze, and understand pattern behaviors and social processes. Anthropologists Malinowski and Med had remarkable contribution on qualitative research. The period from 1900 to 1945 is called the traditional age of qualitative research. During this period, qualitative data analysis aimed at a more or less objective description of social phenomenon in the society or in other cultures. Qualitative research reflects the principles of the positivist paradigm. For example, the Chicago School in Sociology and the research of Malinowski in ethnography are formed in the traditional age. Much of the literature of qualitative research and its textbooks began in the 1960s and 1970s. The period from 1950 to 1970 is the second stage, called the Golden Age of qualitative research, and has experienced modern approach. In this period, coding or data started, and data analysis was driven by various ways of coding for materials often obtained from participant observation. The symbolic interaction perspective, the development of the grounded theory, the attempt in ethnography have commenced the modern qualitative researchers. During 1970 to 1986 blurred genres, qualitative researchers had a range of paradigms, methods, and strategies to employ in their research. Symbolic interactionism to constructivism, positivism and post-positivism, critical theory, phenomenology, cultural studies, and feminism, and so on. In this period, the first software programs and packages for computer supported data analysis were developed. The old functional, behavioral, and positivist approaches were giving way to a more interpretive and open ended perspective. The new perspective focused on cultural representations, their meanings as its point of departure, and thick descriptions of particular events, rituals, and customs. The central task was to make sense of a local situation. During the period from 1986 to 1990, the researchers struggled with how to locate themselves and their subjects in reflexive texts, and there was crisis of representation. The focus on analyzing data was much more on interpretation than on identifying linear models. The erosion of the classic norms and anthropology, characterized by objectivism and social life structured by fixed rituals, marked the seeking of new models of truth, methods, and representation. Critical theory, feminist theory emerged. Pattern and interpretive theories continue to oppose the older models of truth. The postmodern stage, 1990 to 1995, it is a period of experimental and new ethnographies. New ways of conducting ethnographies were explored. Active and participant observation and activist oriented research emerged. During this period, narratives have replaced theories, or theories are read as narratives. The sixth one, the post experimental inquiry from 1995 to 2000. During this period, qualitative research linkages to democratic policies have become prominent. The seventh one, the methodologically contested, that is from 2000 to 2010. It is a period of conflicts and tension. It is characterized by further establishing qualitative research through various journals. Two major qualitative journals began publication, Qualitative Inquiry and Qualitative Research. The editors of these journals published the best new works of qualitative research, and it paved new way for the present period. The last one, the period 2010 and onwards, confronts the methodological backlash associated with the evidence-based social movement. The development of qualitative research focused on the rise of evidence based practice. So, these are the 8 periods of the growth of qualitative research.